Teamfight Tactics has a lot of hidden mechanics that players have figured out over the years, and in this video, I'll show you how the matchmaking system works so that you always know who you're playing against. I'll cover how the game decides which items it drops you from the PvE rounds, and then lastly, I'll go over what hidden MMR is and how it affects your LP gains. The matchmaking system works differently depending on how many people are alive. For most of the game, there are 8 people alive, and while this is the situation, you can't fight the last 4 players you have fought. Let's understand this better through an example. Let's call us player 1, and players 2 through 8 are our opponents. On stage 2-1, it's completely random who we're fighting. So say we fight player 2 there. Now we can only fight players 3 through 8 on stage 2-2, and now we can't fight player 2 until stage 3-1. Say we fight player 3 on 2-2. Now we can only fight players 4 through 8 on 2-3. So already here we have somewhat narrowed it down. Say we fight player 4 on 2-3 and player 5 on 2-5. Now at stage 2-6, we've gotten to the point where we have narrowed it down the most. And from this point until there are only 4 players alive, we can only fight 3 different players at a single time. On stage 2-6, we can face players 6, 7, or 8. So we only have to position for those 3 players. Say we fight player 7 on stage 2-6, and now in the next PvP round, which is 3-1, we can only fight players 2, 6, and 8. A common misconception is that the whole system resets every stage, but this is not the case. In theory, you could play a whole game without fighting players 6 or 8, but that is very unlikely. Once a player dies, the system does not reset, you just can't fight the last 3 people you fought. So let's say you fought players 2, 3, and 4 on stage 5-1, 5-2, and 5-3. On stage 5-3, player 8 died, so then on stage 5-5, you can only fight players 5, 6, and 7. But say if player 4 died on stage 5-3, now you have 4 potential opponents, but after the next round, you're back to only being able to face 3 potential opponents. The system works the exact same way when the next player dies, and you're down to 6 players. In that case, you can't fight the last 2 players you fought, and once you get down to 5 players, you can't fight the last player you fought. The same is true when you're down to 4 players. At that point, you can't fight the last player you fought, and it's a 50-50 between the other 2. Once you're down to 3 players left, there is a full reset, meaning the next fight is 50-50 of who you go up against. The only rule here is that you can't fight the same guy 3 times in a row. Besides that, it's a 50-50. A bonus tip is that you can see who you've fought by hovering over the stage icons at the top, so that makes it a lot easier to remember, but this does go away after the PvE rounds at the end of every stage. What items you get from PvE rounds is random, but you're still more likely to get some than others. The way it determines this is that every player has an item bag. In this item bag, you have 1 of each component. Say you get dropped Rod and Sword from stage 1 PvE round, now your bag has 1 belt, chain, bow, glove, tier, and cloak, and 0 rods and swords. When you get to Krugs, the game gives you 1 of each component into the bag again. So now you have 2 of belt, chain, bow, glove, tier, and cloak in the bag, and 1 of sword and rod, since the game already gave you a copy of them. Say here you get dropped rod, chain. Now you have 0 rods in the bag, 1 sword, and 1 chain, and 2 of belt, bow, glove, tier, and cloak. You get another 1 of these in the bag at wolves and raptors. This is why we occasionally have those "I got dropped 4 cloaks this game" moments, but most of the time you will get closer to 1 of each component from the PvE rounds. So why does any of this matter, you ask? Well, let's say you've gotten dropped 2 rods and 0 tiers from the PvE rounds, and then you need both 1 tier and 1 rod to complete your items. When you're at the carousel or the armory, you should always take the rod, as you have a much higher chance of getting dropped a tier than a rod from future PvE rounds. This is because the items we take from carousels or armories do not impact our item bag. Lastly, let's talk about hidden MMR, which is your matchmaking rating. This is the number that the game assigns to you, and its purpose is to rank you against players with a similar rating. This number is supposed to be your true rank, while your displayed rank is a general representation of what your MMR is. Say for example, a hidden MMR of 1500 is equal to Platinum 4. Then the game is trying to give you LP gains or losses to get you closer to Plat 4. So if you are a Platinum 2 player with a Plat 4 MMR rank, the game is trying to D-rank you. This is why you sometimes get insane LP losses for going 8th. Similarly, if you're Gold 3 and you have a Platinum 4 MMR, the game will try to rank you up, and therefore it gives you more LP for top 4s and takes away less LP for bottom 4s. This is why you sometimes see people bot 4 multiple times in a row, but they won't D-rank. And this is because their MMR is saying that they are supposed to be a higher rank. How exactly your MMR rating is calculated is unknown, as Riot hasn't shared that yet, But the MMR system is based on probabilities. Say you are 1500 MMR and you are in a lobby where the average MMR of your opponents is 1600. Then the game is expecting you to take a certain placement, which will be bought for in this case. If you place higher than that, you gain a bunch of hidden MMR and also a lot of LP. But if you go 5th, then you might actually gain MMR, even though you lose LP. But if you go 8th, you lose both MMR and LP. This is why your displayed rank has nothing to do with how much LP you get. Say for example that you are a bronze player, and you go up against 7 challengers. In this case, the MMR system is expecting you to go 8th every time. So if you go 7th as a bronze player in that lobby, you will actually gain MMR, but lose LP. Similarly, if you are a challenger player in a full bronze lobby, the game is expecting you to go 1st every time. So if you go 4th, then you lose MMR, but gain LP. This is why it's important to still try and place as high as possible while you are in demotion protection. Say if you're Diamond 2 with 1 LP, you always go to 0 LP if you go bot 4, regardless if you went 5th or 8th. However, your MMR loss will still be based on your placement. What I'm trying to say here is that if you go 8th, even though you only lose 1 LP, you will have worse LP gains in the future and therefore indirectly lose more for that 8th. So always try to play for as high of a placement as possible, whether it be playing for top 6, top 4, or top 2. So how do you get a higher MMR, do you ask? Well, the system is designed to look at how you're doing currently. It doesn't really care about your history. If you have played 500 games and you're hard stuck in silver, you can start seeing massive LP gains if you start getting a lot of top 4s in a row. And this makes sense if you think about it. If you gave your hard stuck silver account to a challenger player, they would start seeing insane LP gains after just a couple of games. Since the MMR system is noticing that they're playing insanely well compared to the others, it rewards them with better LP gains, as it wants you to get out of silver. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 3,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care, and see you in the next video.